Hey class, welcome to Chapter 8, Section 2, Continuation of the Government. So George Washington is in office for 8 years. He serves 2 terms and willingly chooses to not run for a third term. He most likely would have won that third term, and he sets a precedent in American history that presidents would only serve 2 terms, and that would go on for about 140 years until a president tries to go for more than 2 terms. So 2 terms in, he decides to quit, step down. And as he steps down, he gives America a few warnings, a few kind of final charges as he rides off to Mount Vernon where he'll live out the rest of his life. One warning he gives the American people and the politicians of the day is that we should avoid political parties or factions. He felt that political parties were divisive and weren't good for America. Secondly, he encouraged America to avoid lasting, entangling alliances with foreign nations. He said those will only bring us down and cause us to go to war at some point. He wanted us to be an isolationist nation. An isolationist nation is a nation that stays away from involvement with foreign countries. And then his third charge was he encouraged America to stay out of debt. Avoid debt. So 3 things. 1, he says, avoid entangling alliances or political parties. Avoid alliance with foreign nations. Be isolationist. And then thirdly, stay out of debt. Unfortunately, America has not done so well in any of those areas since George Washington left the White House. First election in 1796 after George Washington. This one here is going to face the Federalist John Adams. John Adams, of course, has been the vice president for George Washington, and Secretary of State Thomas Jefferson is going to run against him. Adams, the Federalist, Thomas Jefferson, the Democratic Republican. And in this very, very close election, John Adams is going to win. If you see the electoral vote tally right here, 71 votes for Adams, 68 for Jefferson. No surprise on this map right here that Jefferson would win the South, the farming communities, as you know. And as you recall, the Democratic Republicans are more of the everyday farmer, while Adams, being from Massachusetts, is going to appeal more to the city folks of the Northeast. There's more people up there, so Adams is going to win. Now, back in the way the Constitution was originally written, the person who came in second place would also become the vice president. Very unique, very interesting. And so Thomas Jefferson's going to be Adams's vice president. Pretty unique. And I have a picture here of Abigail Adams in the bottom right. A pretty phenomenal woman that we'll look at more in class, but a true partner with her husband John Adams, an intellectual equal, and an important contributor, of course, to her family, but also to her country, and we'll look at her more in class. Well, it wasn't easy for a person to follow George Washington and become the second president. It was very difficult for Adams to kind of live up to that shadow that Washington had created. And so he kind of suffered through that and had a fairly insignificant presidency. He didn't do a whole lot good or bad during his time in office. Adams was a very faithful servant to the United States and did whatever he was asked to do faithfully and honorably. One thing that really hurt him was Alexander Hamilton, who was a Federalist like Adams, but Hamilton kind of undermined Adams whenever he could, and that really hurt Adams, kept him from being more successful. And there were some challenges that while Adams was in office, and that had to do between the United States and France. If you recall to the last section, and the whole Jay Treaty. Remember how the Jay Treaty said that America would trade less with France and more with Britain? Well, that upsets France. So now France is going to begin to seize American ships, seize American sailors. They're going to capture some 300 American sailors. And of course, we're furious about this. We're stuck in the middle of a French-British feud, and we really can't win. So America sends over Charles Pinckney right here. Pinckney's going to go over and try to negotiate a treaty, a settlement with France. This does not go very well. It leads to the XYZ affair. When Pinckney travels to France to meet with France, he is stopped by 3 men. We only know them as X, Y, and Z. And these men demand bribe money. They demand to be paid off before they will even allow Pinckney to talk to France. Well, this news spreads, and America's pretty ticked off. We've had a good relationship with France for the last 20 years, and so we're upset. So Adams is going to begin the creation of an American Navy in order to combat and go against France if we need to. And no official war gets declared, but America will capture 90 French vessels, French ships, while America will only lose 1. And things will kind of get settled again. But it's really this awkward period between the United States and France and Britain as we're trying to kind of mind our own business and just trade, but they kind of keep getting in the way. So it's one thing that happens during Adams's presidency. Another thing that was pretty bad is called the Alien and Sedition Act. And here's what the Alien and Sedition Act said. It took the amount of time, the amount of years it took to become a citizen from 5 years to 14 years. So a person coming to America before had to wait 5 years before trying to become a citizen, but now it was going to be 14 years. Secondly, the president had the right to imprison or expel any foreigners that he deemed dangerous to the peace and safety of the United States. No trial, no hearing. The president could imprison whoever he wanted to that he believed was dangerous. Also really bad. And then thirdly, so first of all, citizenship, 5 years to 14 years. Secondly, president could imprison whoever he wanted to. And thirdly, any person found guilty of saying or writing or publishing anything false or malicious or mean against the government or its officials could be fined $2,000 and imprisoned for up to 2 years. This is a great violation of America's civil rights. Be thinking about the Bill of Rights. What parts of the Bill of Rights are being broken here? For sure, the freedom of speech, right? We in America have the right to say those things. But this law gets passed during Adams' time in office. And he didn't veto it. He should have. I will tell you, he never imprisoned anybody just because. However, he didn't do enough to stop this. And so it was a great violation of American rights. And we'll talk about why this was passed. There's a little more to it than just those 3 aspects in class. So, John Adams' presidency, short, fairly insignificant, kept the boat afloat, kept things moving, and weathered a couple small storms as well.